Welcome back, fellow grievers. In this episode, we're going to talk about why grief gets triggered by random things and what to do about it. So, welcome, dear friends. And first off, I just want to say this podcast is coming out on Good Friday. So, happy, solemn, holy Good Friday. And I hope that you guys have a blessed Easter season as well. So, and if you're listening to this later, no worries. We can always celebrate Easter, right? So, all right. So, I want to talk about today how grief can be triggered by like the smallest, most unexpected things. And often, sometimes, like things that you're like, I should have expected that, but I didn't. So, a couple of these things could be like a song, maybe a place that brings up a past memory. For me, a lot of times it was when I would go to mass and my mom, she always like the part of the mass where it says, Lord, I'm not worthy that you should under my roof, but only say the words and my soul shall be healed. Like my mom said it, that phrase in like the most like dramatic way. And so for me, for a long time, it wasn't every time I went to mass. It was just every once in a while. That phrase would just really hit me hard, and I could just like hear her voice and her tone of voice and how she said it, how she would have certain like dramatizations on certain words, and like I would just feel so sad. And it's like I always would kind of feel more of a connection during the mass to my parents, especially to my mom, but it was like sometimes that phrase would hit me, sometimes it wouldn't. So it was unexpected, right? I didn't ever know when was going to be the day or the week that like it stuck out to me. And I felt just really sad and like tears would start to come to my eyes. So things like that, because we often know that like their death anniversary or birthday or holidays, like we know those are going to be hard. But I'm talking about the times where you feel like, okay, like I'm fine, and then you're just caught off guard. And sometimes too, I think, since it is Good Friday, I often think that sometimes just the liturgical seasons, there's different things that come up that maybe will hit you in a certain way that you didn't expect. And so again, on there's been Good Fridays where like I really felt like a closer to connection to the Lord. But then there's been a couple where I just feel really sad because I miss my parents. And that felt unexpected to me because we would do like, the Triduum, I think I'm saying that right. We would do a lot of that in the church. Like we would go to a lot of those, like the mass, the services. Um, but we really didn't celebrate Easter that much. We would maybe have a few people over, but really we didn't do anything big. It wasn't like Christmas or Thanksgiving where we kind of had our go-to things. That was always kind of up in the air. And so for me, when Easter was when it felt sad, it felt unexpected because I thought that would be a holiday that like would be safe, quote unquote. So um just know that these moments come up, and for one, they happen to everybody. They happen to everybody who goes through grief. It's just like it hits you, and again, you don't really know what to do with it. So that's what I want to talk about today, is just how to handle those moments when it comes up and it just is like, whoa, that came out of left field. So first off, again, our body stores emotional memories. So there might be something where, like the example of being in mass with that phrase, right? Like there are emotional memories tied to that. I would hear my mom and like, I could just hear her saying it. And so our body holds on to those things. And so even if we aren't cognizantly aware that that's happening, our body can respond because there's an emotional response that comes with it. And then that can activate the nervous system before our logic kicks in, before we even know what's happening. And so it's not us overreacting, it's just your body responding to an emotional memory. Okay. So what we can do for this is first, for one, to be like, whoa, right? To acknowledge it, to be aware of it. That's always pretty much for the most part. Step one is to know and realize that that's happening. Because if we don't realize that's happening, we can just kind of feel this like, whoa, like something's off. And we might even recognize like, whoa, like that came out of left field. But then we tend to just react in a way that's like, again, I'll just use myself an example. I will tend to lash out at my husband or yell at my kids or snap about things that like really, okay, their shoes have been left on the floor every day for the past 5 years, and today is the day that I'm like, it just pushes me over the edge, right? So those are the things that then when we are aware, but we don't know what to do with that, that then that's when those we tend to, respond in a way that we don't want to, or we maybe not be proud of later. So a couple things you can try is, and they talk about doing this with people when you have like a panic attack, is to put your feet flat on the floor, like sit up, put your feet flat on the floor, and then take in deep breaths slowly, right? To breathe in and to breathe out, and just do that slowly. You can name three things that you see, that you, three things that you hear, three things that you like can touch or feel, right? And be like, I can feel like my legs. I can feel my shirt against my skin. I can feel the pressure of my body sitting in this seat, right? So like saying those things around you. I feel like there's one more. Smell. The senses, right? Like three things that you see, three things that you hear, three things that you touch, three things that you smell. Taste, maybe, but I don't know. For me, that one I'm like, what do I taste? It just tastes my mouth. I don't know. A lot of times like it depends where you're at. But saying those things, it just brings you back to the present moment and realigns you with, okay, no, like that's not happen, like this is the present. I can see these things, I can smell these things. And that's what like they tell people when you're having like a panic attack or anxiety, to ground yourself, right? To like refocus on the present moment and not get in the spiral. And so a couple other things that I like to do is to then tell myself like, this is normal. Nothing's gone wrong. You are safe. You are loved. A lot of times I'll even like put my hand like on the skin of my neck, just like skin to skin contact, and just be like, deep breaths. You are safe and you are loved. Sometimes I've tried like it's called box breathing, and I know that they have, I want to say it's firefighters do this when they're like in a high stress situation and they can start to panic, where you picture a box, and so you breathe in for 4 or 3 seconds, four, out for four, or no, you hold it. Breathe in for four, hold it for four, out for four, hold it for four. So, and that just like as you watch this box in your mind, right, it just helps you refocus again out of the spiral of your mind and the panic that's happening to the present moment. And so these are all things that you can look up more on Google or ChatGPT, like different ways to reorientate yourself to the present moment. But I also like to add with that I like to have, again, a few go-to phrases that really help me. The I am safe, I am loved, you're not in danger. Of course, this is happening. Like, of course, you're being triggered right now. Of course, you feel sad. Of course, this is bringing up a memory for you. So, just when I say, of course, to myself, that helps me be like, nothing, like, I'm not weird because this is happening. I'm not abnormal. Like, yeah, like, of course, like, you've been through a lot. Like, of course. So, that just helps me have some compassion for myself and to know that it's okay. And then too, if need be, I I like to again, if I need it, sometimes I don't, sometimes I do, just to again run through like the facts in my mind of like for example, there was like I think I talked about this quite a bit where like I thought I saw my mom in the grocery store one time. It was shortly after she died, and it just really caught me off guard. It was really triggered. Like I had a moment of like excitement and joy and hope to like then that crushing realization of no, like that's your mom's dead. And so grounding myself in the truth and in facts of no, like of course you're upset. Of course you were excited. But remember, like, it's okay. Like, the reality is, your mom has died. We are handling this the best we can. Remember, like, we had the funeral. And another time, too, is when I had a dream and it felt so real that her death was a dream. So I had to tell myself again, like, no, remember, like, we had the funeral. You saw her body. You saw the casket. Just rooting myself in those facts of, yes, this is shocking to the system, but your brain needs to catch up with the body's response and like bring it back to no, like this is okay. Of course you're triggered. Of course that is shocking and alarming and you're questioning everything again. So again, just trying to normalize when triggers happen and then walking out of it, right? With some of those calming, slowing down tips. Um, and again, everybody's a little bit different. So what works for you might not work for the next person. But, it's just working through that and navigating that. And if you want help with that, if you want help navigating through what would work for you and some ideas for you, you can schedule a free grief consult call that's in the notes of this episode, or go to catholicgriefcoach.com and sign up for the complimentary coaching call. And I would love to talk to you. And you are so loved. Let's take the next steps together.